if statement. So if statement is about like is either you do something or you are not doing it. So I'm just gonna give you an examples of so that these examples they are just going to help you to understand how do you apply if statement. Where do you know that you are using if statement? For example, it's like if I don't eat, if I'm not hungry, if I'm not hungry, it means that I won't eat. It means that I'm full or I won't eat food. So in this kind of scenario, something is either is happening and the other one is not happening. So when we talk about the if statement, we talk about if and I should also include else, if and else. Let me just include and else here. So it's either something is happening. If this is happening, if I'm eating, then else, which means what? I was hungry. If I'm not eating, it's if I'm not hungry, else I won't eat. If I'm hungry, else I will eat. Those are two things that works together. So when you apply the if statement, the most important part, you must know the structure of the if statement. So in if statement, you write an if, then inside the brackets, is an expression. The expression that you write, it depends on the question. So we're gonna do some few questions so that you can understand properly what exactly I mean. So let me just type. So now you know what is exactly in main and everything. So let's say, for example, I want to know, I want to ask, I want to write a program that was going to ask a user the age. So in this program that we're asking a user the age, if a student, if a person, or if a learner is above is above 6 years old, 6 years or older, then we can accept that person to a school, to our school. So which means it's going to start at grade 5. Or let's say if a learner is above grade is above 5 years and older, then we can accept that school because there are also some grade 1 and what I think is grade R. So so when we apply, but we're gonna modify this question properly so that it can fit based on this school that we are talking about. So which means in in C++ or in this module, we can in this program code, we can ask a user to say enter the learner, what enter the learner's age, learner's age. So when we ask a user to enter the learner's age, the user can be a parent, then which means we are going to see in age. So when we see in age, we know that age is going to be a number because age is a number. So we're going to use an int. We can say int age. Then this is going to input the age. So when it input the age, we're going to have a first condition. So now let's assume we don't have grade R in our school. We only have grade 1. We started grade 1 and we need a child to be 6 years and old. So which means we can say if this age is greater than what? Greater than or equal to 6, then we can accept this student. Okay, then we can accept the learner. Then we can just say, write a message that learner accepted. Accepted. Learner accepted. Learner accepted. This is a message that is going to pop out. Else, if this learner is lower than 6, is the learner is not yet, or the young boy or young girl, she's not yet, he or she is not yet 6 years old. Then, which means we can tell them that they must apply. They must apply when the learner is what? When the learner is 6 years old. You see, so we can set C out apply when a learner is 6 years 6 years old. So this is the message that we just did now. This is a first program that we are writing now. So in this program here, I will re-explain it again. So what is happening, we're still gonna modify this code, this question. So the question here, it was write a program. Let's just let me just comment it. The question was write a program, a code or a program that will ask a user, a learner will ask a parent, enter a learner's, an applicant, and to enter an applicant, okay, to enter an applicant age. So yeah, let's just say an applicant age and state if the applicant, if an applicant is accepted or not, yeah, or not. So this is our code. So in this code here, the most important part is to understand starting from int main there. So in this code here, we are going to ask enter the learner's age. The person who's responsible to, maybe it's a form, it's an online form. So the person who's going to be responsible for this is going to enter an age. So let's assume the person who is entering the age of the user enter maybe 7. So which means the program is going to say learner is accepted. The learner is accepted. So else, if the user enter, let's say 5 or 4, then it will say apply when a learner is 6 years, 6 years old, 6 years old. So if we run our code, we don't have any errors. You will see that now it will ask us to enter the learner's age. Let's assume we enter 3. You will see that the code, it will say apply when a learner is 6 years old. So this, it means that our code is working properly. So if we can do it again, if you, the same code with enter 6, so it will tell you that learner accepted, because we are accepting from grade 1, we are accepting learners starting at age 6. So you see, so which means in when you use if and else statement, is that if this condition is true, then it will output whatever that is inside about this if statement. Else, if this statement is not true, then the else statement is the one which is going to be outputted. So it's vice versa, is vice versa. So which means if something is not, if the if statement is going to be true, then else statement is going to be ignored. Then if else statement is false, then the else statement is the one which is going to be inputted. So in the same program that we are writing here, you will see that if we have to be logically, we have a grade R student. So which means we can modify our if statement, else we are still talking about if and else statement and else statement. So we also have something called else if and else if statement is if and else. So we just combine these two. We can say else if. It's like if I started with this if statement, I have this if statement here. So I'm going to start with an if statement for grade R. I can say if a student, if age equals to 5. We're just making that exactly equals to 5. It's similar. So when you use equal sign in the if statement, we're still gonna discuss this. So we use double equal sign. So there are some symbols before, let's say, we proceed that you need to know. So we have this symbol in programming, it means similar. It means similar. You can use it when you're using if statement. We have a grade equal to. This means grade equal to, and this means less equals to. So this is how you write grade equals to in C++ or in C++ or less equals to. And we also have a symbol which is not equals to. Not equals to is this is, I think, this punctuation mark. Is it punctuation?
Exclamation.
Excellent. Yeah, exclamation mark and equal sign. This means not equal to. Equal to. So we also have another one, which is uh, when you use this symbol, yeah, not this one, yeah, these two, this one, two of them, this dash, they mean or means that we're still gonna discuss when you use or how do you use or if, when everywhere when you are using in if statement or while loop or for loop, if you have to use them or. And then not, it means that some, if this is not this not equals to that, then which means we're still gonna discuss it more, but this one means or. And we also have this one which means end, an end. And then the other one, let me see if we still need one more. All right, and then an end or an end, and then maybe some of them, if we still have that I didn't mention, that we need to use them in if statement and also in while loop, I'm gonna let you know about them. So now I will delete these ones here and then also this one, the else. So as I've been saying, so now if we have to say, we have to write an if statement. We are writing this if age equals to 5. So we're going to say if age equals to 5, then this student is going to qualify to go to grade R, ne? Which means we can say registered for grade R. I'm just grade R. I'm just trying to be as precise as, yeah. So we're gonna say registered as grade R, semicolon there. But now you can see that I already wrote if. So now when I write this one here, the second if, I can say else if. You see, else, else if. You see, I start with else now. Else if as age is greater than what? 6. Then we can say what? Learners is accepted, which means learners is accepted. We are just trying to modify or to not really modify. We're trying to summarize, not to say learners accepted to grade R. So we can still do that, like when it's grade, when it's 6 years, learners are accepted to grade R 7, like that and that and that. But it depends also on the, it will be complex code because we have to check if they already passed or not. So, but the last statement, that if we are using else statement, you can only write else like this. This one, the last statement, you can leave it as else like that. But if you will have to have many, if you will go, you're gonna have as many like else if statements that you are going to be using. So in the middle there, you can use an else if, then at the end you just say else. Sometimes even if you say else if, you stop there, the code is still going to work perfect. It won't have any problem. But normally in a good tradition, you can use only else at the end. So this one now, you have seen that we use the first one, we said if, the second one we say else if. Then if we run our code, if we make a change in our program, remember you must run your code. So now in this code here, if I write 5, you will see that it will tell you that registered for grade R. And then if I write 7 is above 5, if I write 7, 8, you'll see that it's accepted. Learner is accepted. But if we write a number that is below 5, then which means it will go to the else statement that register when you are this age. If we write 4, it won't accept. It will tell you that apply when a learner is 6 years and above and older. So but we should have maybe changed here, if to make it nice, to say 5, because schools they start at 5. So this question that I'm trying to show you, I'm trying to make you understand how you use an if statement.
Question. If okay, underneath the else if there's another maybe condition that I wanted to
Another
add.
yes, you can
If,
add. Let's say, for example, I hear what you are saying, but okay, let me allow you to finish with your question.
yes, I was just asking if there's another condition that I needed to add. It will also come with else if.
Yes, it will come as yes with else if. Let's say, for example, if like let's say you say else, you can say, I'm just giving an example, as if let's say this learner is what else if age is greater than or equals to, I'm not sure if it's gonna be 13, 13 years old. Let's assume it's 13, then
Mm-hmm.
a student must start grade 8, ne? Else if Elena is greater than what 13, then what
Mm-hmm.
must happen? We can see out qualified, okay. Okay, it's gonna, I'm not sure if I'm not okay, it's fine. Qualified for high higher school, higher learning. Let me just say higher learning.
Mm-hmm.
Higher learning. Qualify for higher learning. So this qualifier is just the matter of UA there. Qualified. I can't change. I'm not sure where.
Mm-hmm.
It's fine. Now it's gonna be fine. Qualified for higher learning. So you see, we have added another else if the statement that another else if in terms after that else if. So you can still add many else if as you want. So it's just complaining because I didn't put the semicolon there. So if we run our code, if we put any age above 13 or starting from 13, it will tell you that, for example, we put 15, it will tell you that this learner is, it qualifies for what? It's supposed to say a learner is qualifies for,
For higher
else if
learning.
age is greater than or equals to 13 years, it must tell us that this learner is qualified for higher learning. Okay, yeah. So let me see something. We started with else if with for 6 years. So now you will see that here in this code, if we run it, let's run it again. I want to show you something.
Mm-hmm.
If we write even 13, let's write 13. You see, it only says learner is accepted. You get what I'm
Yeah.
saying? So
Mm.
it's because of this here, we didn't restrict the age here. So we can restrict the age by those symbols that I was showing you. So it's like now we know that between 6, we need between 6 and what? And 12.
Mm-hmm.
You get what I'm saying? So when we need between, that's when it wanna take me to explain to you when, how, what is the difference between and or, these two symbols. So when we use and, this is an and. So and means intersection. It means intersection in maths. It means intersection. Intersection. So intersection means something in between. In between. In between, it means that when you do, if you did maths, when you do a Venn diagrams, they will tell you that find a union. Actually, we also means union. Union. They will tell you that find a union between the two sets, between the two diagrams. So the union is where those two they they touch. So it's in between. So when we want to say we want to age between the age of what? Between the age of 16 and the age of 12, because 13 is already been included in this one. So we can use and. So I can use an and symbol. I can say age, if age is greater than 6 and age is less than or equals to what? Less than or equals to 12. So which means the learner is accepted. But if we used an or means everything. Is either anything, if I say or means that is anything that it can be above. It's either if we use or in this equation here, anything that is above 6,
Mm.
it can be 100, it will say learner is accepted. Or
Mm.
even if anything is below 12, it can be 0, it can be -1, it will still say learner is accepted if we use or. So it's everything. That's
Mm.
the meaning of or. So or you use it if you don't care, you want anything. Like,
Mm.
but if you want to have a restriction that, like in this one, we want to have a restriction whereby we need to start from 6 to 12, from the age of 6 up to the age of 12. Then it means that we have to use an AND operator. They are called an AND operators. So now our program with this one here, you will see that it will work perfectly. So if now I run my code, you will see that if I type 15, it will go straight that, okay, I'm typing 15, still say enter the learner's age. We say 15, learner is
Mm.
accepted. So let me check what are the errors. Oh, okay. They were it didn't compile actually. That's why it's still running an old program. So now it compiled. Let's see if we can say 15. You will see that now qualified for higher learning. You see that. So if you say if we do what, let's say it's a 11, it will tell you that learner is accepted. Learner is accepted. But if you use an or here, let me test it for you. This is just to show you what will happen. So if you use or, anything goes in or. Whether you put negative, you can put 1, you see, learner is accepted. Even if you put 100, let's say, for example, any number, because we don't have restriction after 13, even if you put 20, even if you put 21, it will tell you that learner is accepted because of what? Or. So I think now you get you understand the difference between an or and and.
Mm.
You
Mm.
understand them. So that's the
Mm.
difference between an or and and.
Okay.
Yes, so that's how you use. So exactly the way I'm explaining in if statement, you're still gonna use it with a while loop and for loop. It's just that the difference between an if statement and the while loop. So looping, it's gonna be about repeating. So if you check, you can write as many. There are many questions that we can do based on the if statement and else statement. So this was one of the questions that I wanted us to do in order for you to understand this if statement. Maybe we can try some questions. I don't know if you have some questions with you.
Mm. Mm. Mm.
You don't have.
Mm.
Let me try to get few questions that we can use. So the first question, I'm just gonna read it to you. Okay, let me just erase this first one here that we did now. The first question, it says, write a program. Okay, let me also erase this one. I want to see. Yeah. The first question says, write a program. Okay, let me just comment it. It says, write a program to find maximum between two numbers. Okay, write a program to find maximum between two numbers. So which means in this program here, what we are going to write is either you might find that we can declare, first of all, let's assume that we have int x, which is equals to 10. And also we have int, let's say int, I can just write it here, comma. And then also we have int y, which is equals to, let's say, 15. So in this program, we have to write an if, right? We have to write a program to find maximum between two numbers. We have to write a program that is going to find a maximum number of these two numbers. So we can also use an if statement in this kind of question. So we can say if our x is greater than y. If x is greater than y, which means which one is greater? If x is greater than 1, which means x is going to be what? Which means x is going to be a maximum. You see?
Mm.
So we can say C out, we say x. You can just write x like that. You say
Mm.
x and is what is maxi. I'm trying to abbreviate, it's maxi.
Okay.
Else, if x is not greater than, if this statement is false, then we use
Mm.
an else. Else, what happens? Else which means we get see out y is what?
It's the max
It's
at the
max.
pole.
It's max, yeah. Is max, which means the maximum one now is going to be y. Okay, what's happening here? We have x and y. If x is greater than y, then what is going to happen is going to say x, which is 10, 10 is max. Eh? Else,
Mhm,
if y is the one which is greater, else if this statement is false, when they say this statement is false, it means that x is not greater than y, which means
mm,
y is the greater one. Then else
mm.
the y, which is 15, is going to say 15 is max. So let's run this code and you see what we are talking about. Okay, it says something. Let me see. I think okay, there is something. Int x, comma. Okay, let me read. Okay, normally if you have an error, you must read what they are saying. It says build no target in there. Okay, error accepted unqualified ID before. You see, so this one before this. So there is something token build one. Okay. So it seems like there is something here that we need to check before this.
The int main.
Yes, yeah, right. We didn't have int main, yeah. So we didn't have int main. So now we have int main. So if we write this code, you can see it already output that 15 is max because in our code here, the y equals to 15. So which means the statement, because y equals to 15, the statement y, the second, the else one, that's the one that outputted because our y is 15.
Mm,
So if you check between, if we swap this number, let's say for example, I change to 20 there, it will say 20 is what? It will keep giving us the correct answer, that 20. It will be switching them in between those two numbers. So this is just one of the questions. So as you can see, 20 is the max, like so on and so on. So those are questions that they can ask you. You must get familiar with, but you just have, it's just to, like, I can call them as a warm up so that you can understand, like, because when you do this module, they are not going to really ask you an if like this way. You're just going to apply it in a
mm.
program. Yeah. So there are many questions, like some of them, maybe I'm just gonna give it to you.
Mm.
There are many questions about the if statement. There are many. It depends on, but after so much in what we have done, I think you won't have any problem with any question here.
The if statement. Yeah, if you do have questions that I can do offline, and then I can
Yes, yes.
send you.
Yes, that's why I'm saying, so that I can give you, maybe you do them offline. I
Okay.
think that will be also best. So let's move to, we have done an if statement. So I think we can move to a while loop now, because there is not much about if statements that you need to know. If you understand these logics, then
Mm,
you are fine with an if statement. So some of the question I'm just gonna to give it to you so for practicing.
okay.
So when we talk about a while loop is about repeating. Now, when I say repeating, I normally summarize it that way, repeating. So repeating does not necessarily that it must, if I have to say I'm repeating, it must, if like I am writing a loop, like a loop, it must be one, one, one. Every time it must, anything, it must be the same. It can be the same. Sometimes it can change. So repeating, it can be work on terms of patterns. For example, you might want to type a code, write a program that print hello 5 times. Ne? Hello five
Mhm,
times. You can use a while loop. So sometimes you might want to write a program that is adding up, maybe in a consecutive way or in a constant term from one term to another. Let's say you are writing a program that is adding two. Ne? You started with one, then when it adds two, 1 plus 2 is going to give you 3. Then when it adds 2 again, it's going to give you 5. When you add 2, it's going to give you 7. When you add 2, it's going to give you 9, and so on. So this we call this is a repeating. Is repeating because what is happening in this is kind of like a sequence, but what
mm,
is happening here? It's repeating adding one thing, which is 2
mm.
in one number, like 1, 2 after one another number. So this kind of problems, we can solve them with a while loop. You can also write a program whereby maybe there are a lot of things. You find that you are working with financing. You are dealing with a compound in mathematics or in banks. You are dealing with a compound interest, compound, which I can say CI, compound interest, whereby you use a formula A equals to what? A equals to P in brackets 1 plus I plus IN, I to the power N. So you might want to know from here, maybe you want to save a money for 18 years, or so that maybe if you retire, or 20 years, maybe when you are checking that, okay, I'm left with 20 years to retire or 10 years to retire, but you want to be saving those money for yourself, just for your own benefits. So you want to check how much are you gonna be earning per every year after when you are saving. If you put 50,000 in your maybe in a savings account, investment account, so maybe they said they are using a what, a compound interest. You can use this formula, but in order for you, if you don't want to waste much of your time, if it's many years, you can just, if you are a programmer, you can use a while loop to check how much you're gonna have every year, or until when you finish, when you go to take your money after 20 years. You can use a while loop. It can does that. So that's a point, that's a powerful of a while loop. But there are many problems that you're going to use in order for you to use a while loop. So now let's talk what is the structure of a while loop. In a while loop, it's still the same as like kind of like a if statement. There is an expression. After an expression, you can write whatever that you really want here inside the while loop. But the difference part with a while loop is that if we write a code, let's say for example, we want to print hello. So we want to print hello maybe 5 times. We must have an initialization statement. We call it initialization statement. Okay, maybe initialization statement. So initialization statement, you can use any alphabet. You can say int x equals to, let's say you are starting at 1. When you say int x equals to 1, we want to type maybe hello 5 times. Eh? When you say x is less than or equals to 5, it means that it's going to start at 1. Say it's 1 less than 5. It found that is true. Then inside there you have C out. When you have C out, you type, you can say hello. Then, but the problem part, if we just write this code like this, when we compile it, it's going to work. But when we compile it, when it's working, the problem part, you can see if we run it, it won't run accordingly to what we need. It's going to be an infinity loop. As you can see, that it's just typing hello many times, but it's not stopping. So when it's an infinite loop, so the question also they can ask you in your exam, what type of error is this? There is a syntax error, there is a systematic error, and there is a compilation. I think it's compilation. There are 3 types of error. Compilation error. So compilation error is when you are for compilation error is when you are compiling your code, it gives you errors. You see those error we see there. So this one now, we also have a logical error, and then there are many errors. So this, and also syntax. So this one, when we compile our code, it runs, but it does not do accordingly to what we wanted it to do. So what kind of error is this? I'm going to give you as a homework also to find the name of this error, or what happens, which type of error when your code is fine, but when you run it, when your code is compiled successfully, but when you run it, it does not do what? It does not do accordingly to what we want. So you must know that type of error. So I already gave you, it's in between those one that I already gave it to you. So now, in order for you to in order for this code to work properly, we have things we call them increment and decrement. Increment. So increment means increase and decrement means decrease. So when we increase in C++, if because I have my x there, I use x equals to 1. When we increase, we can say x plus plus. So when I say x plus plus, this means that I'm going to increase, I will increase x by 1, x by 1. X is represented in 1. Remember, x by 1. So remember our x equals to 1. So it means that this program, if I put x plus plus here, it's going to say is 1 less than 5. Then it finds that indeed 1 is less than 5. Then it will print hello. When it print hello, it's finding this statement, so x plus plus, which is an increment. So it's going to add 1 to this 1 here. Then now
Mhm.
it's no longer, x is no longer going to be 1, it's going to be 2. It comes back here, it's 2 less than 5. It finds that is true. It print hello. It increased to 2 is now 3. It's 3 less than 5. It found that is true. It print hello it goes to 4. 4 less than 5 is found that is true. It print hello is 5 less than 5. It found that 5 is less than 5 is true. It print hello. When it's 6 is 6 less than 5. It found that is false. Then it stop. It does not print anymore. So that's the logic how it works when you work with this with a increment. So in this increment, when we say this is x equals to x plus plus is increase x by 1, we also have x equals to x plus what? Plus 1. So x equals to x plus 1 is the same as this. These two statements, they're the same. This one and this one, they're the same. So,
Oh,
but it does not necessarily that you can increment by 1. You can also increment by any number you want. Sometimes you might be want to increment maybe by 2. You can say x equals to x plus 2 plus 2, or any number that you want. Or if you don't want to write it in this format, you can say x equals to plus equals to 2. It's still the same.
mm,
So for decrement means decrease. So it's the reverse of this. Where there is plus plus, you substitute with minus minus. So which means here is going to be minus, it's going to be minus. Here is also it's going to be minus. That's a decrement because it's decreasing. Decrement means you're going to be subtracting by 1 each and every time. So let's run our code so that we can see. You saw at first that when we run this code, it gave us so many hello. So now if you see, it give us hello, 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 hello 5 times. Just that to see properly, maybe you can put an end line. When you put an end line there, you will see that if each and every hello is going to be written in its own line. As you can say, hello, 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 hello. It's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So now
mm,
you might be surprised. Okay, what's happening? This is things that you must take care of. I started my x at 1. If you start your x at 0, it means that it's going to start at 0 is less than, which means we won't have, because here we said x is less equals to, we won't have only 5 hellos. We're going to have more than 6. We're going to have 6
mm,
because it's going to be 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So if
mm,
it's like, it's a counting method. If you start at negative 2, which means it's going to be negative 2, negative 1, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. You're going to have
mm,
7
mm,
halos. So if I let me do it again, you will see that now we have how many? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Oh, it's 8 halos here because there is also 0. Yeah, it's
mm,
negative
mm,
2, negative 1, 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5.
mm.
Yeah, you see. So that's how, so you are, your initialization, you must know when to start, when you are starting, depending on the question that you are doing. So as I've said, so now it does not necessarily that I might want to print maybe 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I can put X there. My X is going to start as 1 there. Let me say end line. When I put X here, it's going to say, it's going to compare first. When it's true, it print X, which is 1. Then increment X to 2. It comes, then it print 2, like so on, until this statement is what? Is false. This statement is false.
Mm.
So if you see, we have printed what? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 using the while loop. So sometimes you can be asked, the question says, say, write a program that will print an even number up to 10. So even numbers, they start at what? At 2.
Mm.
Then they said up to 10. We're going to end at 10. But now we know that if we are working with even numbers, if you add by 1, it's going to be 3. It's going to be an even number. So even number increased by what? By 2. Then
Like
which means
two.
my increment is going to be different now. It's going to be plus, I can say plus equals to what? 2.
Mm.
Then if I run my code, it will, let's see. Okay, if I run my code, you will see that it's printing an even numbers 2, 4, 6, 8, 10.
Mm.
So that's how it works with a while loop. So there are many examples of while loop that we still gonna do. There are so many of them. You can try if it's odd number. You can try. I showed you with an even number. You know, odd number is 1, 3. It started 1. It
Mm.
said 3, 5, 7. You can write a program with an for odd numbers, and then you check it if it's running perfect, and then yeah, for odd number you will do it. It's the same program as this one we just did now for even number, for odd numbers. So again, in while loop we have talked about what, okay, this one is fine. So we also have something in while loop. Maybe you might be writing a code whereby it's going to add, it have to add numbers. So we're gonna start it simple today. Normally I don't start, when I teach, I don't start it simple this way. So if you have to write a code that is going to ask, not ask a user, that is going to add numbers. Let's say, for example, you ask a user to enter numbers. Ne? You say enter any numbers. So see out. But the first, if we have to ask a user to enter any, we have to start with this one for asking a user to enter any number. So let's
Mm.
assume that you want to ask a user to enter any numbers. And when a user is done, a user can enter maybe -1. We write a statement, see out, enter any positive. Let's assume that we need positive number. Then you're gonna see in, you know that we're going to see in. We can say X, for example, or you can say number if you want any, it depends on you. But when we say any positive number, we're gonna have an int, let's assume it's an integer int number, but we didn't tell a user, let's tell a user that when you are done, see out again, I will put an end line here, /n, see out, enter -1. Let's assume you must enter -1 when you are done. This question that we are doing, it can be referred to, you can be asking a teacher. You can be asking a teacher or a lecturer to enter maybe it can be like a result of students. So obviously speaking, if you're entering a result of student, there is no -1 for most of the results. They don't get -1. So which means it's either a student get 0. So
Mm.
the lecturer can enter those results. Maybe you want to do maybe you have a work to do, like maybe you want to do a report or academic record. So you can use this statement, use this method that I'm using. So we're gonna say in. We don't know how many numbers. A user can decide to enter 100 numbers or 1,000 numbers. It
Mm.
depends on them. So we can use a while loop to control them. We can say while what? While our x, our number, because we are using number now. Why our number is not, this is where now it's happening. It's not equals to what? It's not equals to -1. As long as the user does not enter -1, né?
Mm.
This computer, it must keep running, in number. We don't want to, in this one, we are not doing a lot of things. We are just saying, we are understanding, okay, what's happening. As long as the teacher or whoever, the user is not entering this -1, what must happen? The program, the code must keep entering. The code must keep entering, allowing the user to enter the number. So this is the objective, the first objective of this code for while loop. So if we do this code, you will see that it says enter any positive number, enter -1 when you are done. A user can decide to enter 10, can decide to enter 20, 33, maybe 90, 12. You see, it's allowing me to enter as much number as I can. But the moment when I enter -1, the program is stopped. You see, it stopped me. So if it stopped me, so that's how you can write your while loop to ask a user to enter as many number as possible. But what is the point of asking that, as I said? You can, this is a point whereby you can be maybe entering the score. Maybe, for example, maybe this code is meant for somebody who is going to enter a score of soccer. It depends on what, as long as there is anything that it's gonna be entering, then, but the objective can be, we want to add them, we want to do what, we want to add them, maybe we want to subtract them, or we want to divide them, or anything that we want, or we want to also know how many learners there are there, and then and so on. So let's assume that in this code here we can say, because we are working with int, let's just say int sum. We can say int sum. When we say int sum, we're going to say equals to 0. This statement here is just an initialization. We're initializing our sum to start to 0. But when we initialize our sum to start to 0, here a user will enter any number beside -1. When a user will enter any number, after when a user enter -1, then the program stop. But we don't have to include -1 in our code. So if I use that, I'm going to start here, like on top of programming work with logic. When I say it works with logic, it means that if I write this statement that I'm going to write below C in here, it won't work properly. I will explain to you how you will try it when you are practicing. So the sum, that sum equals to 0. My objective is to increment it. I'm going to say sum, I'm going to say equals to what? I can say plus equals to, the way I was incrementing. But now I'm not going to increment because I want to add. Remember there I was just adding, I can say 1, it keep adding by 1. So now we have this number that a teacher is entering or the user is entering. We can say a number. So this statement here is going to add all the numbers. It's going to start with 0. Then a user maybe can enter 10, the way I entered. It's going to say 0 plus 10. Then it go again. It find this one. It come. You see, it find this C in. Is sum. It goes is sum in -1. When the find is true, it get inside there, it add the number, so on until this statement is false, then what, it stopped. So this is only going to add. So when we want to see how much the total, I can write it outside the while loop. I can see out sum for like that, and line. So let me run this code so that you can see what's happening. We're still going to repeat the while loop. We are not yet done with the while loop. So if you see here, I will try to enter small letters, numbers, so that you can see. I will only enter 3 numbers, and then 20, let's say 20, and then 30. Then I'm gonna enter -1. So if you see 10, 20 is 30, which means the answer for the sum, it must give us 60. So when I say -1, you see that the answer give us what, 60. Hello?
Yes, yes, I'm still here.
Okay, yeah. So it give us what, 60. So that's the difference. So if I put this statement here, as I said, this programming works with what? Copy is C, okay, C, but okay, it's fine. If I put this statement sum outside after this C in, you will see that it's going to use this also -1. It's gonna subtract whatever that we write there. It won't be 60. So I'm still gonna use the same digits. So if we put again is 10, let's say 20 and 30 and -1. You see now, instead of, we said, okay, 10 plus 20 is 30, 10 plus 20 is 30 plus 30 is 60 minus 1. So -1 is say 49. I'm not sure why it's giving us wrong number. Or maybe it's not counting. I think it's not counting this. Yeah, it didn't count this 20 here. 10 here. It only counted 20 and 30, yeah. Then it said -1. Now you can see that there is a problem. It's not running exactly as we wanted. So this is an example of showing you that in programming, like it works with logics. So you must check the logic of how you are writing. Not we don't You don't just write any statement anyway. That was the objective of why I was showing you that. Do you have any question?
No, 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 not at the moment. I'm
All right.
still with you.
Maybe you can just try to do this one and also revise the if statement. I will also try to I will send you the video, the link of this video, and then I'm also gonna send you some questions that you can try to do. All right. Then I will catch you up in the next section.